Hello, I'm Robert Costa in Washington. Welcome to America Decides. With 1 week to go until Election Day, Vice President Kamala Harris continues to lay out her campaign's closing argument. During her speech at the Ellipse in Washington, D.C. tonight, she's expected to strike a balance between warnings about her rival and what her campaign calls forward-looking optimism. The Ellipse is where then-President Donald Trump addressed a crowd he encouraged to march to the Capitol on January 6, 2021, shortly before it was violently attacked in a failed bid to overturn the election he lost to President Biden. Former President Trump, as for him, will be in Allentown, Pennsylvania tonight. This moment could be a major test of the fallout from Sunday's crude and deeply offensive remarks made by a speaker at Trump's Madison Square Garden rally. Latino voters in Allentown and neighboring Reading could play a major role in picking the next resident of the White House and who wins Pennsylvania. Earlier in the day at his Mar-a-Lago estate, Trump addressed the rally. He attacked Vice President Harris and defended his event.
I don't think anybody has ever seen anything like what happened the other night at Madison Square Garden. The love in that room, it was breathtaking.
And we have new polling out of Pennsylvania tonight. It shows a tied race as we head toward Election Day. A deeper dive into those numbers is coming up. But we'll start tonight with Nancy Cordes and Caitlin Huey-Burns on the campaign trail. Great to see both of you. Nancy, you're in Washington, D.C., down the street at the Ellipse tonight. What is the vice president hoping to get out of this gathering of all of her supporters, thousands of them, it seems, behind you near the Washington Monument and the White House?
And they're still streaming in, Robert. There is a majesty to this location, first and foremost. That's part of the reason that it was chosen, just to kind of give people an orientation. I'm standing on the Ellipse. It's a big grassy area that is located between the White House, which you can see just over my shoulder, and then, of course, you see the podium where the vice president will be speaking in a couple of hours. And then beyond us, on the other side of the Ellipse, is the National Mall and the Washington Monument. So there is a grandeur to speaking here with the White House over her shoulder. And of course, it is, as you mentioned, the same spot where former President Trump gave that fateful speech nearly 4 years ago, where he tried to convince his supporters, who frankly didn't need much convincing, that he had actually won when he had lost. They got very fired up. You know what happened next. They marched to the Capitol and they broke in. And so that is something that Harris wants to bring up tonight, wants to juxtapose. She's going to argue that Trump is only out for himself while she is out for the American people. According to prepared excerpts that we have received, she's going to say that Trump is someone who is unstable, obsessed with revenge, consumed with grievance, and out for unchecked power. A short time ago, I spoke to a Harris campaign senior advisor, David Plouffe, and asked him why they want to focus so heavily on the event that took place here nearly 4 years ago with just 1 week left in this campaign. Take a listen.
Why focus on what was a very dark day in U.S. history?
Well, Donald Trump wants to be rehired, so I think it's worth reminding people about what he's like. He's reminding us every day the division and the chaos. But January 6th is just going to be a small part of the speech. She's going to very much turn to what's on the American people's minds today, which is how to pay the bills and lower costs, protect our health care, Social Security and Medicare, but also the character of these two people, which is, at the end of the day, Donald Trump is increasingly unstable.
Unstable and unhinged, those are words you can expect to hear again, Robert, when Harris takes the stage.
Caitlin, you're on the campaign trail with former President Trump. You've been talking to voters about that Madison Square Garden rally. What have you been hearing?
Well, Bob, a little bit of context as to why he's campaigning here in Allentown. This event was scheduled well before those racist remarks by the comedian at Madison Square Garden. The reason the Trump campaign was coming here to Allentown is because this is a majority Latino city. And in this city, Puerto Ricans make up nearly a third of the voters here. So the idea that he was going to come here anyway tells you how critical this vote is in this key battleground state where our polling shows a totally tied race at this stage. So we spent some time earlier today walking around the neighborhood where this rally is being held, and we ran into a few people. One woman told us that she's actually thinking of changing her mind now that she heard those comments. She is from Puerto Rico. She said she was leaning towards Trump and now won't vote for him. And we also talked to some of his supporters as well, who say the comedian is to blame. Take a listen.
I was all Trump until then.
You were all Trump until those comments?
Yep.
And even though he didn't say them,
It's still his campaign.
How can you condemn a whole country? It's not fair, you know? They're citizens of the United States, all of them anyway.
so you heard from those two Trump supporters at the end there. They are actually Dominican, but the Latino vote in Pennsylvania is so critical, Bob. They make up about 6% of the electorate in Pennsylvania. And as you well know, this state was determined by such a slim margin in 2020. It's tied right now. Every vote counts. So this question of potentially marginalizing some voters, that question remains as to whether that could sway in a state like Pennsylvania. Now, the Trump campaign has distanced themselves from those comments, as you know, but the former president himself has not condemned the remarks. He had an opportunity earlier in the day talking to reporters, didn't condemn the remarks, instead leaned into his key issue in the closing days of the campaign, an issue that has been really front and center of his political push for the past 8 years or so, and that is on the issue of immigration.
Nancy, when you spoke to David Plouffe, who's such a veteran of Democratic politics, what did he make of Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden and whether it would have an impact on the campaign?
Right. Well, the campaign has been insisting that it is already showing up as a factor, that the Madison Square Garden rally broke through in a very unique way to voters who are being inundated with messages and ads and social media posts in the closing week of this campaign. I asked him how he can tell that it is actually resonating with voters in such a way that it could actually affect the vote. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Our organizers are picking up in those communities. People were saying, I wasn't sure how I was going to vote. Now I'm voting for Kamala Harris. So it was a huge mistake. But here's what I've learned in politics. Things that really hurt you are things that are consistent with what people may already think about you. So that chaos and that hate and that division, for a lot of voters, they say, that's what I'm worried about. I've got concerns about that. So it was the worst closing argument in the history of American politics, and that's saying something.
Now, Plouffe does not think in any way that this race is going to be a cakewalk or is in the bag for Kamala Harris. He insisted it is going to be razor tight in every single battleground state. And so he argued that even though they view what happened at Madison Square Garden as a win for them, they've got to keep pushing forward. They've got to run through the tape if they're going to have a hope of winning this election.
And Caitlin, how does the Trump campaign see their coalition in this final stretch? Do they really believe this early vote total that's strong in many states is Trump's base coming out, or do they see it as voters who might be voting for the Democratic nominee instead?
Well, they're certainly encouraged by the early vote numbers, and that's because the campaign itself has been trying to push their voters to show up early or return absentee ballots early to get that vote in before Election Day if possible. And Bob, that is a marked difference, of course, from 2020. And it's also a difference from how the candidate himself talks about early voting. While the campaign wants their voters to show up early to kind of bank in those votes in the key battleground states where it's an option, the candidate, the principal, is on stage like the one behind me, raising doubts already about early voting and the election already. And so this is kind of going to be a key theme in these closing days. A campaign wanting voters to bank those votes, and the candidate still raising questions about the integrity of early voting in his view. Trump himself plans to vote on Election Day. His wife, Melania, confirmed that in an interview earlier today. They will vote in Florida, where he will also hold his election night rally near West Palm.
Nancy Cordes and Caitlin Huey-Burns on the campaign trail, reporting for CBS. Thank you so much. Make sure to watch Election Night with the CBS News team live from our election headquarters in New York, and our teams will be spread out across the country. Join us on Tuesday for real-time results, analysis, exclusive polling. Coverage will begin at 4 p.m. Eastern on CBS News 24/7 and at 7 p.m. Eastern on CBS.